Hey, what's going on? My name is Mick, and I'm posting my day trading journey right here to YouTube with complete transparency. And I want to jump straight into the trades for today. I took three. I had two short trades and a long trade. I was 2 for 3 on the winners and losers, but I wanted to break everything down, kind of go over what my thought process was today, and kind of just let my stream of consciousness go to kind of review my own trades. And I wanted to start kind of on a higher time frame as if I can figure out, there we go. I want to start on a higher time frame. What I'm looking at is past couple of days we've been like almost completely vertical, which is kind of crazy. We have recently run into a pretty heavy area of resistance, and so I've been trying to keep an eye on that. This is the area of resistance right here, back in kind of the 17th, 18th, 19th of September. And we had a lot of consolidation through this area. And so far, we've had a couple of reactions at these supply zones up here. So today was an interesting day. I really only traded in the morning. The afternoon, I didn't do much. I wanted to just keep it simple in the morning. And so a couple of things. I started off charting the overnight stuff. I drew an overnight demand zone down here, or order block, whatever you like. That was kind of confirmed later in the AM when we had a pretty significant bounce there on that order block. And then I was just keeping an eye on these major supply levels above. And what I did was I drew an opening range for my first trade. So the opening range here at like 937 right after the open, and then the bottom of the range down here. I waited for something to happen on either side, whether that was an opening range break above it or below it. I was just going to let it happen, whatever it was going to do for the day. And I decided to take a short, and I wanted to talk about kind of the mistakes that I made because I did end up getting stopped out here. So once it broke below, on this large candle here, broke below the opening range, I waited for it to kind of retrace to a decent place, and then I took a short here. So one of my big issues, I believe, was the fact that I was kind of shorting right into a demand zone, which really, in hindsight, wasn't great. I should have recognized, like, if this demand zone from this morning was getting respected, and I had a couple of minutes prior, so if it was getting respected, maybe don't take a short here. We did kind of dance around, but ultimately I did get stopped out. I really should have waited probably for a more significant demand zone, which is probably down here. That would have been more appropriate. Hindsight's 2020, so it's kind of hard to tell. I didn't take that one too personally. That trade was like lost about $175. I finished the day up a couple hundred, but I had two trades on one account and one trade on another account. In the afternoon, or later in the morning, we finally broke that range back into the close to the high of day. One thing I didn't recognize, and a couple of these notes that I'm watching here, I drew the order block from this morning's sell-off, and or I drew it after I took this trade, so I didn't pretend that this little order block wasn't there. So what I was thinking here was we had definitely some buying pressure here. This was pretty exciting. This was after the fourth tap on this demand zone, which you'd think 4 would be enough, and it finally broke out. This tiny little pullback, this is what I was keeping an eye on, because right after that we had another kind of bullish run right here. So what I did was I drew this as an order block, and I did not meant to keep that as a positive order block. What I did was I waited for another pullback to get into that order block, and I went long here. On this second trade, I wasn't trading micros. On the second trade, I was actually trading 2 minis, and this was just on a different account. This was on my NinjaTrader account, and my entry was pretty decent. It was right here at the bottom of this wick, this is where I drew the OB, the order block, and I had a decent entry, and then I exited up here. But In hindsight, the interesting part, I should have had this order block marked here from the morning session. That probably would have talked me out of actually longing into that order block and instead actually be looking for an opportunity to short because, if you look at the reaction from this morning, you could expect that we would have a similar reaction coming off of that order block. So, yes, this was my biggest win of the day. I ended up getting like $600 from this win because I was trading minis. But in hindsight, I probably would have gone back and traded short from this and actually chart my OBs up there. So I need to be a little bit better about that. That also coincided with yesterday's high of day at that same level. So that was also another confluence there to get short. Again, at this point, this loss was about 170. This win was about 600. And then I had one more win, but this last one was a pretty bad trade. I saw this move off of the order block, and I got pretty disappointed that I missed it because, again, I didn't chart the order block from this morning. And so what ended up happening was I saw this pullback, and I was thinking, holy crap, I should have gotten it. So I chased and I entered way down here, which was an awful. I mean, this had already broken this low right here. It had already broken that level. I should have entered up here, which is whole 30 points away, and just awful, awful entry point. And I set my original stop loss above this high. So really just crazy positioning, not a good trade. I sat in it anyways. This was actually going back to smaller size. So I was trading 5 micros, so I wasn't too stressed about holding minis through this. I let it play out a little bit. Once we set this high right here, I actually ended up moving this stop loss to 15,326.75, which is right above this temporary lower high. And then once we kind of broke into profits a decent amount, we basically broke below this demand level, which was support for 4 separate times. Once we broke below it, and then I saw buying pressure coming back into it, I just got out right here at this level. So I got out about 15,300. Again, not a good trade overall. Bad entry, super risky stop loss, and the target was okay. I was targeting the overnight low, which I think was a fine target. Just overall bad entry, bad risk management in general. Luckily, I got out in profit, and I exited when I did. And I wouldn't have gotten stopped out, and it actually would have hit my target eventually. But again, bad entry. I'm not going to stay in a trade that I don't feel good about. Overall, okay trading. I'm still working on the supply and demand stuff. But I did want to kind of just look at overview to look at the reactions that my zones played today and how they worked. I'm not going to play off of this order block right here just because I didn't mark that, and I don't think that's fair. But looking at some of the supply and demand zones that I did chart and kind of see actually how they played today was really interesting kind of thought experiment. We did have this kind of 1 minute order block or demand zone, which 1 reaction, 2 reaction, 3 reaction, 4 reactions. So that was a pretty significant level. And then this original one, which was from overnight, it was like 4:30 in the morning, this order block down here. We had 1 pre-market reaction, which was pretty solid. Once we broke through this demand zone, we stopped at this demand zone, bounced to the previous one, which I guess if you break through that level of support, it then becomes resistance. Back down here to this one, which becomes support, and then this is resistance, resistance, all of this support. So it's interesting kind of how this played throughout. Once it broke through, I wasn't entirely sure. I want to say that we bounced here off of a fair value gap. I've got a 15-minute fair value gap here. Let me actually just move this. I've got a 15-minute fair value gap right over here from yesterday, and that looks almost exactly where that bounced in that fair value gap. So that was almost perfect on the fair value gap bounce. And then we came back up to this demand zone. At this point, I guess you could be considering supply zone or breakers at this point. But just interesting how things played out today and kind of how the levels worked out. Um, Basically, from a basic supply and demand or support and resistance zone level, today was pretty textbook. I wish I had made a couple of better decisions this morning. I probably would not have made this trade, considering how strong this resistance level was this morning, or the support level. And then I probably would not have been long here going into supply and into this order block after the reaction this morning. I would have been looking for a short opportunity. So definitely a couple of mistakes, but overall, I think trade management was okay. My only loss today was 170, and then I had a couple of wins. Um, so really, on one account, my total loss was $42. Yeah, $42. And then on my other account, my Ninja Trader account, I had a $600 win, so about $520 for total today. So I don't feel too bad. Just overall, trying to get the support and resistance zone figured out. I'm enjoying this. It's really simplistic. I'm not trying to overdo anything. Just charting basic order blocks, supply and demand zones, keeping an eye on resistance, support areas, and then essentially just trying to find ranges and make sure I'm not getting chopped up in certain ranges, and that I can look for rejections, or I can look for confirmations in certain areas. So overall, not too difficult, but again, I'm just happy to be green today. I could definitely tighten up a lot of things. Like, I just need to be better about that. But um, that's really all I have for you today. See you guys next time. Peace.